Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marlow York, and today I want to talk about something that probably every single writer asks themselves, and that's whether or not they should read bad reviews, and if they do read them, how should they handle it? Now, bad reviews are pretty much just a way of life for anyone who creates literally anything. And I'm sure this is similar to people who are public figures and have a lot of comments on their social media, and a lot of people just don't like to read bad reviews at all or read comments because people can be very, very hurtful, especially on the internet, more so than they are in real life. You obviously don't want to expose yourself to people's negativity, especially people who don't know you, they don't know what you've been through, and in a lot of cases, they don't even care about you or your writing, they just feel like trolling you. I don't know if this is exactly rampant in the writing and book publishing community, but I'm sure this does happen to people who have been published much longer or have many more reviews. I'm sure Stephen King's best novels have 1-star reviews where people just absolutely hate it for some reason. I'm sure Harry Potter has very awful reviews, and there's really not a lot you can do to prevent it, so all you can do is react to it or avoid it. Like I said, some people do choose to completely avoid reading reviews, which I think is actually a little bit of a hindrance because of course you want to read good reviews so you know what people are enjoying about your book, and it feels really good to read a 5-star review that's just ranting and raving about how awesome your writing is. But I can also understand why people want to avoid it because they just don't want to even deal with the chance that they would have to have their feelings hurt by someone who just wants to shit all over their writing, something that they've spent years working on in most cases. So if you don't have a ton of reviews to read, it's going to be pretty easy to want to read them all the time. For instance, when I first published my book, of course I wanted to read the reviews and see what people are thinking, and it feels great to see 5-star reviews, and even seeing a 3-star review doesn't feel absolutely great, and I could choose to avoid reading these altogether, but I feel like I would be doing myself a disservice to just avoid them for the sake of not getting my feelings hurt. Ultimately, the choice to read any reviews, good, bad, mediocre, is entirely up to you, but I would actually encourage you to read bad reviews and see if there are some good points that can be taken from those reviews. So if you happen to pop onto Amazon and you see a 2 or 1-star review, I do have a few tips that can help you deal with that. My first tip is don't take it personally. In the rare chance that someone doesn't even read your book or doesn't really care about you and they just feel like trolling you, it's really hard not to take blatant insults personally. But if that's the case, there's really no point in taking a shred of usefulness from that review, in which case you should just push that to the back of your mind because obviously that person is a troll and their opinions just don't matter. However, if you do read a bad review and the reviewer is talking about your book and saying that they don't like this and they don't like that, it doesn't mean that they don't like you or that you are a bad person or a bad writer just because they don't happen to like your characters or your setting or the way you did this or that. It's nothing personal, it's just how they feel about your writing. My second tip is don't dwell on it. So say you did read a scathing review in which someone completely tore apart your book and your writing skills. I know it can be really difficult not to think about that one bad review when you have so many other good ones, but it doesn't do you any good to continue to dwell on this one person's opinion or even a couple people's opinions. Sure, it's easier said than done, but once you read the review, you should really just push it to the back burner and not make it ruin all the other good reviews that you have about your book. My third tip is to take every review with a grain of salt. Now this can apply to good reviews as well as bad reviews, or even those mediocre, 3-star, ho-hum, sort of in the middle reviews. This can also apply to beta readers and critique partners. Every review or critique that your book gets doesn't necessarily have to be the be-all, end-all. Sometimes the things that people will like or not like about your book aren't really that useful to you. If someone says they did like your book, but they think you should have done this or that differently, that's their opinion, and it doesn't mean that you are required to do that in the next book or that you should have done that and you should think of that as something that you regret. Likewise, if someone says that they didn't like something about your book, again, that's their opinion. Sometimes it can be valid and you can use that as advice for your next book, or it can just be their opinion and again, it doesn't have to affect you or require that you do something about that. And my fourth tip for dealing with bad reviews is to use every review as a learning experience. Reading reviews is basically like getting feedback. It's a great way to figure out what you're doing well in your story and what you should continue doing in your next book. And it's also a way to learn what you don't do so well. Now, hopefully you went through the beta reader, critique partner stage, and many of the potential issues that you have with your writing have already been sorted out. But sometimes you'll find things in reviews that maybe a beta reader or critique partner didn't notice before. If there's something that several people are saying they don't quite like about your book, whether it's a genuine, bad, hateful review, or if it's just sort of a meh, I didn't feel like this was my kind of thing review, those are things that you can take with you for your writing in the future. So ultimately, when it comes to reviews, good, bad, mediocre, whether or not you choose to read them is entirely up to you, and what you choose to take away from them is also up to you. One of the scariest parts about publishing a book is that you are putting part of yourself out there for anyone to review and have an opinion on, and people will say what they're going to say. So it really does help to read bad reviews so that you can help develop a thicker skin, so that what might have seemed like a really harsh comment that really hurt your feelings later on won't be that bad. We all know that reviews are very important for your book, especially for things like Amazon and Goodreads, so their worth definitely shouldn't be overlooked. Though it can be really scary to read reviews, I would honestly encourage you to read bad reviews, because there's always something that you can learn from them. And if you have gotten some bad reviews, I definitely wouldn't take it to heart so much that you feel like you should stop writing or something. If writing is something that you really want to do, then you will have to sometimes encounter haters and people who don't like your writing, and that's perfectly okay. That doesn't mean that you're a bad writer or that your book is garbage, because odds are for every bad review that you have, there's going to be at least 10 great shining ones. Focus on the good reviews instead of the bad ones. However, use the information in bad or mediocre reviews to help you further develop and improve your writing later on. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you found this video useful and interesting, and if so, please give it a thumbs up. My book, Blood of Fire, is available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle form. And if you'd like to keep up with my other writing endeavors, I am also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Goodreads. So until next time, see ya!